there were these disciples that were on the road to Emmaus. Could have been a husband and wife, because one of the names could be feminine in the Greek. Anyway, so they're walking along, and they're talking about what happened, and the Lord joins them and conceals from them their knowledge that it was him. And it's just a beautiful story. And in verse 31, he took bread and he broke it with them. He blessed it and he gave it to them. And it says in verse 31, and their eyes were opened and they knew him, and he vanished out of their sight. And then a little bit later we read in verse 36 that they hurried to Jerusalem, and when they met with the other disciples there, they began to talk about how the Lord appeared. And it says in verse 36, and as they thus spake, Jesus himself stood in the midst of them and said to them, peace be unto you. And they were terrified. The beautiful thing is that the Lord has such power over dimensions, and that there is a dimension that is more real. It existed prior to this physical dimension that we have right now, known as the earth. Before creation of this creation that we live in, there was the kingdom of God. And that particular creation is actually more substantive than this one. It existed before this one, and it will continue to exist after this one is destroyed by fire. And think of Colossians, I think it's chapter 2, by him all things are held together. And so here I hold this book, and I'm standing on a concrete floor with a carpet on top of it. But if you think about it, on an atomic level, it's all mostly space. And the protons and neutrons and nucleus and this stuff that's circulating that comprises matter is mostly space. And Jesus is able to have appeared completely normal as a human being to them, and then vanish from their sight, and then appear later. And he has absolute control over dimensions. And if you study the scriptures, if you look up every reference to heaven and the heavens being opened, almost every reference from Genesis right on through to the New Testament, like in Genesis, Jacob's ladder, he had the vision of angels ascending and descending on a ladder to heaven. We have in the Elijah, he saw the heavens opened, and he saw the chariots of fire, and Elisha was caught up. On the New Testament, Stephen looked up and he saw Jesus at the right hand of the Father. These are close to earth, and the dimension of the kingdom of heaven is nearby. So heaven is really at treetop height or maybe cloud height in another dimension. And in all the trouble that we're having now, and we have people dying, we have relatives of people in this fellowship. I think 5 have died from COVID-19. Not in this church, but relatives of people in this particular fellowship. And do we really believe that we will dwell in the house of the Lord forever? If you don't have peace with God through Jesus Christ, you can put your faith in him and know that you will dwell in the house of the Lord forever.